Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, World of Tanks Blitz, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a question that's asked quite commonly on the channel. Do I still enjoy World of Tanks Blitz? This is a rather tricky one, and one that I think deserved its own dedicated video to break into. Do I still enjoy World of Tanks Blitz? The answer is yes, but it's also no. Certain times when I play this game, I really enjoy it. If I have chill teams where I'm able to play the game, get hauled down in whatever tank I'm driving, or do the role of whatever that tank is, and just chill, I'm having a fun time. And that's what I like to see about this game. But if I'm going to load into a couple games in World of Tanks Blitz, and I'm going to get instant steamrolls every single battle, whether it's on the enemy team or my team, and I literally have to struggle to get out damage, I have to struggle to win, that is where I personally do not enjoy the game. And right now, it seems like getting one of those games is about a 1 in 3 chance. In fact, today alone, I was planning on making a video on the FE2 and 5B 183. And you're going to see two back-to-back battles I got in the 183, where it was just instant steamrolls, both on the enemy team steamrolling my team. And Wargaming themselves has admitted to turbo battles existing in the game. That's what they named them. When Wargaming reworked the matchmaker for skill-based matchmaking, which they have obviously reverted their changes on, thank God. But when Wargaming reworked their changes for skill-based matchmaking, they admitted in that little news article that turbo battles are plaguing the game right now, and they are a big problem. And what makes these turbo battles happen? Well, it's quite simple if you ask my personal opinion. It's the constant buffing of vehicles and refusal to nerf tanks. We have seen the average DPM of mediums go from around 3,000 back in 2017, 2018 to now 3,500. I remember when the AMX 30B was introduced into the game and it had about 3,200 DPM, and that was on par with the majority of other mediums. That was on par with the T62A, it was on par with the STB1, it was on par with a lot of other tanks. And now, I mean, you look at tier 10 and the 30B had to get buffed to 3,600 DPM to be considered good. We have the Conf Panzer at 3,700 DPM. We have the Leopard at 3,900 DPM. We have the Object 140 at 3,800 DPM. We have the M48 Patton and M60 Patton with 3,500 DPM. I mean, basically any medium you drive, you're sitting at around 3,500 DPM. And even if you're in a tank like the CS63, which has a bit lower DPM, well, that's fine because you got tungsten to make up for it. So yeah, in that regard, mediums have gotten a mega buff on DPM, and it's not just mediums, it's heavies too. The Super Conqueror went from around 2,700 DPM to getting a DPM buff, now sitting around 2,900 DPM. The AMX M454, a lot of people talk about, oh, how it got nerfed, but it also gained more damage per minute. The Kron gained damage per minute. The Stritzvon K got released into the game, it's now the highest DPM heavy. The FE2 and 5B got a damage per minute buff. The Chieftain Mark 6 obviously has an incredible DPM already. The 113 has great DPM. It just seems to me like what Wargaming has been doing is they've been buffing DPM more and more. And not only did they buff DPM, but in the latest changes to the game, they then made it so that penetration is even more effective. They made it so AP shells now have an easier chance of cutting through armor. And not only did they make AP shells have an easier chance of cutting through armor, they buffed heat shells, making your armor less effective in any heavy you drive. So already there alone, we are seeing a lot less effective capabilities from any tank. I mean, even super heavies like the Mouse and VK72 are sitting upwards of 2,600, 2,700 DPM. Why does a Mouse have 2,700 DPM? That doesn't make sense. Give the vehicle less DPM and give it more hit points. Games are way too quick, because what Wargaming has been doing is they've buffing DPM, they've been buffing penetration, they've been buffing accuracy, and in return, they have done nothing to counteract the games. As I've said many times in the past, I would love to see Wargaming reduce damage per minute by about 10% of every single tank in the game equally, and it would even out a lot of the gameplay we see. But unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to be a reality. So, on the question of do I enjoy the game, yeah, I do. I really like World of Tanks Blitz because of the RNG factor in the game. There is no single battle that you can play in this game that will be the same as any other game you play. And that's why I find myself coming back to this battle every single day, or this game every day, is because I enjoy the aspect of using my skill in a completely different match and being stuck in a different situation than I've been stuck in the battle before, and being able to outsmart my opponents, outposition my opponents, and come out with wins. But the problem is when you are so heavily dependent on your teammates around you, and they fall apart almost instantly, it makes it very hard to sometimes enjoy the games that are being thrown in front of you. For me, an ideal situation, even if I'm losing, you know, people always think, oh, all you want to do is win, win, win. I don't care about winning. Yes, winning is important to me. But personally, if I lose, and the game isn't, you know, an instant steamroll, and I'm still able to get out a bit of damage, and I'm able to feel like I at least had some sort of impact in the game, then I don't mind it. But the problem is with these games, I mean, that last game you just watched, I had zero impact in that battle. Would not matter what I would have done, that game was a loss. And you're going to watch that here again. I've got an M48 Patton camping in spawn next to me. My 3 mediums that go wide are instantly going to die. And even though I get out some really juicer shots here in the 183, it doesn't matter what I do. Because at the end of the day, your team's going to fall apart. Look at that. We are already down to T100 LT because he YOLOs into 3 enemy vehicles. If we actually take a look at where our T100 died, look at where he YOLO'd. How in any world did our T100 LT think that that was going to be a proper play? And yet he's dead. And these are the problems that I said I have with the game right now. All right, I'm trying to fix my camera. There we go. Right now, we are seeing more steamrolls than ever. And as I said, my solution would be, first of all, to nerf the overall DPM of every tank in the game. The second solution to fixing the problem would be to make tank-based matchmaking. I've said this many times in the past, and I'll say it in the future. The enemy team has 2 lights and a medium, and our team has 4 mobile vehicles. We have 2 lights and 2 mediums. And why? Why does one team have 1 less medium than the other team? It doesn't make sense to me. The matchmaking in general needs to have even matchmaking. And there needs to be special classifications of vehicles. I am in an FE2 and 5B183, and this tank is not comparable to a Foch or a Minnow. And it doesn't make sense to me why the enemy team would get a Minnow or a Foch when our team gets an additional medium. Because basically they got an additional heavy with the Minnow on their team where we don't have that. And again, it's just a great example of where the matchmaker doesn't really know what's going on. It's even more apparent when you play games on something like Canal or you play on a map like Dead Rail and one team gets a medium advantage and you instantly lose the medium flank. Or you play on a map like Oasis Palms, and one team has a medium and the other team doesn't. The matchmaking needs to focus on putting even amounts of mediums, lights, tank destroyers, and heavies on each team. And not only that, but they need to classify subcategories. You can't match an AMX 50B up against an E100. It's just not plausible. You can't match a T95E6 up against a Super Conqueror. Wargaming needs to realize that certain tanks have different subcategories. And sure, the matchmaker doesn't have to be perfect, but it would be much nicer if the matchmaker at least tried to make the games as fair as possible. That's what I would like to see. It would make the games last longer, and it would obviously make these games a lot better. The final thing that I would like to see done to the game is a different way of skill-based matchmaking. See, a lot of people when they hear the word, oh, skill-based matchmaking, they think of it as in, I want to put skilled players against skilled players and unskilled players against unskilled players. That's not what I want. I want skill-based matchmaking in the way that players that are bad at the game don't get into matches with players that are good at the game. That's what I mean. What do I mean bad at the game? I mean 45% and below in tier 10. I mean less than 1,000 damage in tier 10. If you're above those stats, then you're put into the normal matchmaker. But if you are below these stats, maybe even 47%, I don't know. There's a number out there that I would pick if I thought about it. But if you're below a certain set stats, you should not be put into the normal matchmaker. That would solve 2 problems. First of all, it would solve the problems of good players dissing on bad players. I generally try to refrain from calling people bad, especially if I do get thrown into a battle with sub 5k games. But if I'm in a battle and I've got a player with 90,000 battles on my team and he still hasn't learned a single thing about the battle, I'm probably going to get a bit salty. That's just the way this game works, and that's how it is. I would love if Wargaming would just put players like that, who, you know, if you're the player that says, hey, I'm a casual player, I don't want to put much effort into the game, I don't want to learn or care how to get better, sure, but why am I being punished with you on my team? I would love if Wargaming made a second matchmaker, and they were to put those types of players below a certain skill level into that matchmaker, and everybody else who does try and does want to get better at the game puts into a second matchmaker. I personally don't care if my stats take a drop if the games last longer and I have more fun in the battles. But right now what's happening is it's not that this, I'm doing fine statistically. Like this month, I'm probably going 3,700 damage with 75% win rate. And that's fine, but the enjoyment of the games I've been playing has been much less than any other time I've been playing the game, because the battles are just steamrolls. They are just instant win or loss. I mean, look at this game here. It's a 7-0. Already, in the first minute of the game, it's over. The entire battle is over. This is constant gameplay now. Every single game is just over before you even have a chance to make up your mind. And it's not just this game. I mean, these are just random games that I've played throughout the day today. I mean, that battle there, instant steamroll. And I played a VK90 battle on stream yesterday. The only reason I have this game start is because there was a Waffenträger Alfie 100. But this game as well, instant steamroll. The enemy team pushes towards town. Our team pushes towards medium flank. The grill drives out in the open, kills himself. It's just an instant steamroll. And it's back and forth. You saw in the 183 gameplay that my team was instantly pushed on and the game was over. But now you're going to see the opposite situation, where I'm just going to win instantly, and I'm literally holding the W key the entire game, and yet I get no damage out. It's a serious problem. And that's the part of Blitz that I do not enjoy. It's the fact that these games are lasting way too short, and that it seems like it doesn't matter what you really do in most of the battles. It's really dependent on what your most influential tanks do. Now, sure, I could drive a medium. I could drive a Kampfpanzer 50-ton. I could drive a 60 TP or a WZ-113 GFT and probably make a big impact. But why should I be punished to drive specific tier 10s that are overpowered or more capable when I want to drive a VK90, when I want to drive maybe a slower super heavy and have a little bit of fun trying to hold, but then, oh, whoops, the entire medium flank's already dead and the game's over. The end. It's just, I don't know, it's very disappointing. As I've said many times, driving tank destroyers is a whole different story. You literally can't drive tank destroyers without your games being completely decided on what your team does. I mean, even if you drive a tank like a minnow, it's still very team dependent. If your team falls apart around you in the minnow, your game's basically over because you don't have the damage output to hold. So, in general, that's my problems with the game. Those are the things that I would like to see Wargaming fix. I would like tank-based matchmaking, and I would like players that are under a certain skill level thrown into a different matchmaker, and I would like the mass nerfing of damage per minute in the entire tier. Those are the changes I would like to see. I'm sick and tired of seeing Wargaming rebalance tier 10 every year. We don't need rebalancing on the tier. What we need is rebalancing on the matchmaker. We need rebalancing on DPM. We need the game to get... Wargaming just needs to think of how they can make these games last longer. That's really as simple as it is. But do I enjoy World of Tanks Blitz? Yes, I do. While I do complain, and I complain a lot, the reason I complain is because I like the game, and I don't like to see moments where I don't enjoy the game. That's the same thing for everybody. If you enjoy something a lot and you start to not enjoy it as much, obviously you're going to complain about those reasons. If you stop complaining, you're going to stop caring about the game. That's as simple as it is. I tell that to everybody. Would you rather have somebody like me on a live stream complain about the problems with this game, or would you rather have me ignore the problems, let them get worse, and let the game, continue on a downhill trend? That's the question you want to ask yourself. Personally, I complain about things that I don't agree with in the game, things that I would like to see get improved, because I am passionate about the game, and I like the game, and if I didn't like it, I wouldn't talk about the problems. I would just be a mindless drone, pressing battle, moving on to the next game, pressing battle, moving on to the next game. That's how I am. And because of that, it's why I do tend to complain a lot about the things that are going on through my mind while playing World of Tanks Blitz. I mean, look at this game here. This battle, literally, it's a 6-0, and the game's over. I mean, I literally, as I said, I drove the entire battle from start to finish, and I got 3,000 damage out. That was as much as I could have done. There was no positioning or anything I would have been able to do that would have allowed me to get out more damage this game, unless I probably camped and spawned, but then I would have been rushed by the enemy and died. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. As I said, I enjoy this game. I really do. You know, people think that I don't enjoy it. I like playing World of Tanks Blitz. At the end of the day, while I do have unenjoyable games, as I said, my stats are still pretty good. Like, even in the 183, 72%, over 3,000 average damage. And the majority of my tier 10s are over 70%. I've got pretty good stats on my tier 10s in general. And even the ones where I might not have great win rate, I still have pretty good average damage. So it's not like it's that big of a deal. My press account's still at 74% average win rate. So it's not like I'm struggling to do well. But I am struggling to find sometimes fun when I'm playing games that are just turbo wins, you know, where the game's over in 20 seconds. And it seems like now that about 1/3 of the games occur to be this instance. So those are the problems I have with the game. On the question of do I enjoy it, yes, I still do. While my enjoyment may be a little bit less than it has been in previous years, at the end of the day, I still do find it fun playing this game. In Platoon, it's still quite enjoyable. And it's really only Tier 10 I'm finding these problems. Down in Tier 8, I don't have any of these issues. In fact, Tier 8 has been really enjoyable for me lately. I have been having a lot of fun in Tier 8 because you don't have... And Tier 8's a great example of how Tier 10 should be balanced. Because, you know, you look at a vehicle, let's say like the T-34, right? This tank has pretty okay DPM, 1893. But the average heavy has a lot of health. I mean, 1800 hit points on your T-34. That's a lot. 1830. And you can move into vehicles that have even more hit points. You can move on to like super heavies, like, I don't know, a VK100 with double sandbags, and you have 2150 health. That's a lot of hit points. And judging that the average heavy in Tier 8 has about 1800 DPM, that means it would literally take a full minute of shooting for a heavy tank to die in Tier 8. And even if you look at the mediums don't have that much DPM in Tier 8. You know, you look at something like an Object 590, this is a newly released medium, you have 2200 DPM, and that's with rammer. So with Cali, you're looking at around 2100 DPM. You look at one of the highest DPM mediums in Tier 8, like the Indian Panzer, and this vehicle is sitting at around 2,600 DPM. That's the highest. That means it's still going to take around 45 seconds to kill a Tier 10 heavy. And then you make your way to Tier 10, and the average medium is sitting at 3,500 DPM, where the average heavy is sitting at around 2,400 health. That means that mediums are killing tanks way faster in Tier 10 than they are down in Tier 8. And that's why I personally enjoy Tier 8 a lot more. Your health goes a lot further. You play in a Shark, you play in even a medium. I mean, the mediums deal less damage. In general, your health goes a lot further in Tier 8 than it does in Tier 10. And it means that you're more influential, the games last longer, and I've really been enjoying Tier 8. It's why I've just been finding lower tiers more fun lately. Tier 10, sure, it is an alright tier, but Wargaming really needs to think of how they want to rebalance the game, because right now, you might only see me making videos on Tier 8s. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. As always, if you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!